Okay. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Thank you for all coming. This is the January 8th, 2024 already. Select Board meeting. Any changes to the following agenda?
I got nothing.
No, I don't
You all
have any.
set?
Yep.
All right, gonna discuss the minutes of the December 9th, December 11th, and December 16th, 2023 Select Board meetings. I think you all have it in a copy of it in your packet.
Yep. Well, two of those meetings was the budget discussion and the other was the select board meeting, December 11th. So I'll move that we approve the three select board meetings for December.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Treasurer's report.
For December of 2024, revenue was $8,823.74. Expenditures were $35,133.57. Balance at the end of December was $608,042.34. Delinquent taxes are $94,996.20. And there are 4 tax sales scheduled for April.
Just one point of order, Callista. The 35,000 in expenditures is being in, you moved 220,000 out. So that's affecting what the real expenditures were.
Yes, so that 35 is just what it is. It did move that out.
Callista, just for my info, you said there are 4 tax sales scheduled for April.
Yep.
How do we announce that or notify those sales, or how does that even work?
As it gets closer, it's advertised for 3 weeks in the Vermont Standard.
In the Vermont Standard? Okay, 3 weeks ahead? Great.
Yeah, there's a certain criteria as to how long that.
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion on the treasurer's report?
Move to accept the treasurer's report as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Action items. Highways. Had our first snowfall last night, yesterday.
I don't see Glenn on.
He's not on?
No.
Okay.
I was just looking to see if I could find it. Who's out there.
We had a mud season a couple weeks ago. That was terrible.
You're looking at me?
Well, I don't know if you have anything to add in. We did get a truck. The truck showed up, right?
The truck has arrived at Reed's. It's still there, by the way.
It is.
He's waiting on Viking to let him know when they can start work on it. He's also trying to swap the town of Reading with some other town so that we go first. Otherwise, we're gonna be out 3 or 4 months instead of 2 or 3. I haven't heard anything more on that since, what's today, Monday, last Friday. So I don't know whether he's been successful or not. We will be getting an invoice for the truck chassis,
Okay,
just so you're aware. If you see it show up.
okay. Do we have a total yet?
I don't have it with me, but yeah, we have a total
We have a-
on just the chassis.
Oh, okay. No, I'm talking the whole thing.
216,000.
Is the total for the whole thing, is that what we're gonna do a loan for?
Probably might as well.
Gonna have to, yeah.
Might just well do it once.
Well, that's what I'm, cause
The body from Viking's 89,000.
okay.
So do the math and you'll know what the truck is, 131 or something like that.
Do the math.
Okay.
Do the math.
Do we wanna get the loan going now or wait?
We're gonna get an invoice for the truck before the body, so probably might as well get something going.
Okay, can I get a motion then for a loan?
Do we need to, yeah, we need the whole 216,000 to start, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got 50,000 in the budget. Depending on timing, I'll move that we start the procedure for a loan for $216,000.
Okay,
Second.
Okay, been a motion made to set up a loan for the truck and Chad body for $216,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 The other thing is any of you that live on a dirt road, which in looking around, a lot of you do, we know they're rough. Problem is, they're probably going to remain rough unless they get really warm here at some point in time, because they are froze up solid. Snow eventually will fill them in some. The gravel is getting leveled off a little bit with the snow plowing, but they're going to remain rough through the foreseeable future unless it gets really warm on tomorrow and Wednesday, where they flatten out a little bit. But bear with us. We'll do the best we can as soon as we can.
You have anything on highways, Bob?
I don't.
I have the highway certificate highway mileage certificate came from the state that needs to be signed and sent back.
Okay,
That's just confirming our mileage.
yep. Nothing else on highways?
I don't have anything else right at this point in time.
Okay,
The flood work and the pictures are pretty much finished on the highways. I did get around last week when it was bare ground and got all the pictures. I think that we need to verify that the roads are done or were fixed. And there's probably gonna be some questions because of the mud and the ruts and the stone and everything else that's showing, but I don't think it'll be a problem.
okay. All right, if that's it on highways, we'll go to finalizing the budget. We've had 2 budget meetings, one on December 9th, one on December 16th. And we had just a couple of items left to finish that up. And right now, we have a grand total of $704,949 to be raised by taxes, which is about $30,000 less than last year's budget. We paid off the retreatment for the road from South Reading all the way over to the line, so that's paid off. But we've taken out a loan on a fire truck, taken out a loan on a truck, so we're trying to stay within that balanced budget area.
Hang on just a second, please. You folks can't see it because I've got it on this report, but even though we've got 2 truck loans coming up, our short-term borrowing loans is running fairly consistent for the past 3 years. In 2023, it was $120,000. Fiscal year 23, it was $120,000. Fiscal year 24, which we're in right now, was $112,000, and going forward into fiscal year 25, it'll be $100,000. So it's been running fairly even though we're going to have 2 big loans setting out there in a few days.
Question?
Yes, sir.
What about funding for the solar array?
That's not in that yet.
Okay.
That total right there doesn't include any appropriations.
No. The
That's added after, if they get voted in.
Yeah, the 704-949 does not include special appropriations that will come in by petition and either get voted in or out.
All set on the budget?
The only thing that's left to be done is to find a home for $7,700 worth of miscellaneous income, which
I
is,
did move it. This is a meeting for you.
I don't need that, but what was that for?
The 77, it was for the reimbursement for the grant for the wastewater,
Oh, okay,
so it
for,
wasn't.
for the wastewater study.
It was just, it was an in and out, because we paid that, we got reimbursed just what we pay. So
Okay.
it really didn't have much to do with it.
All right. Guess she has found a home for it, so numbers won't change, it's just
All
where
right.
it's shown.
Okay, we need to set the date and location for the informational meeting prior to town meeting.
I have talked to the school, we can use the school Saturday, March 2nd at 9 AM, which is consistent with what we have done in the past.
At the school,
March what?
At the school.
March what, Calista?
second.
Second.
At
Saturday,
9?
March 2nd at 9 AM. We will get the warning together for that. For the, however many days before that, we have to have it out.
And then election day is when?
Election day is Tuesday.
The Tuesday after that, so
Mhm.
2 or 3 days later.
Yes,
It's the 5th, I believe, is the date,
the
Bob.
fifth, March 5th. And the polls are open 7 to 7. With that being said, the appropriation deadline is Thursday, January 18th at 3 PM. Petitions with 5% of registered voters, which is only 26 as of right now, need to be turned in to make the deadline to get on the ballot, the warning, town meeting warning. Consent form and petition deadlines is Monday, January 29th at 5 PM. That is 1% of registered voters, which is 6 as of now. For any elected offices, the offices that are open are moderator for 1 year, select board for 3 years, lister for 3 years, auditor for 3 years, trustee of public funds for 3 years, library trustee for 5 years, and cemetery commissioner for 3 years.
What was that date, January 29th?
January 29th by 5 PM.
That was for all the elected positions.
All the open elected positions this year,
And those are the ones that need, you said 1% of the vote
1%
of the
of
registered voters, which is 6 people.
signatures.
Anything else for the informational meeting?
That's all I got.
All right. FEMA and the bridge repair update. Bob, you talked a little bit about FEMA already, but I'll start with the bridge repair update. We did get a permit. We had permit issued today for the stream alteration engineer. And construction started today on the Archer Bridge. We've got a road, they're putting an access fordway across the river in order to get to the other side so they can repair the abutment. That excavator's gonna be at Archer Bridge for a couple of days, and then he's moving up to Grasshopper to take out the existing culvert at Grasshopper. Contractor is planning on doing precast foundation to limit the exposure in the river. So you'll get the culvert out, make an access down into the river, divert the brook so that he can put the foundation in. The precast sections will be set in the hole 6 feet below the stream bed. And then he's got an arch that's gonna set on top of that. So he's planning on building the components in his shop, which is over here at the old talc mine. So he's building all the components in a controlled atmosphere, and then he's gonna erect it in place out in the field. Weather permitting, he's looking for a completion date of somewhere around the 1st of March. So that'll help out Grasshopper Lane.
On both, right?
For both?
For first of March for both projects, yes. The price of those two projects, we've got low bidder on the Archer Bridge was $233. Second bidder was $283. Third bidder was $329. Fourth bidder was $569. On Grasshopper, we had two bids, $444 and $643. So those are the two projects, and looks like we should be pretty well underway by spring runoff.
And the bid was awarded to,
Waters Construction for both projects. We haven't awarded the Grasshopper Bridge until we see till the engineer approves the way the precast is gonna be attached to the arch. That information should be coming in the next few days. I'll be taking pictures of the projects before, during, and after, so that we have a record of the activity that took place on the structures. Did the same thing on the bridges on Tyson Road and Town Farm. So we have history of what we did. So 20 years from now, 50 years from now, we'll see what happened. I won't, but maybe somebody will.
Sure you will.
I won't be looking
You're
at
gonna be sitting here 20 years from now.
Yeah. So anyways, been a long time coming, but we finally got it under control. And FEMA, Bob, you're still meeting with Hector on Tuesdays?
every Tuesday, and I'm gonna talk to him tomorrow about the alternate project on Grasshopper that he wanted us to quote, which was to put another culvert back in,
Yep.
which was equal to or really close to being the same as a bridge.
Yes.
I don't know what the real number is, but it's close.
Yeah, all the contractors bid, I had them bid for the FEMA requirement was FEMA wanted us to replace in kind. And most of the time it was very close to what the new structure was gonna be. The in-kind replacement was not gonna be adequate for the new hydraulic study. So it was just information for FEMA so that they could justify the new cost for the newer size structure.
Yep.
Anything else?
No,
You submitted 3 projects?
project submitted, right?
yes.
Okay.
3 are in, and I got 3
We got,
on my desk almost ready to hand to you.
oh, good. Thank you.
And have we had any indication of payment from FEMA?
No, I do believe we've answered all the questions on the first 2 that we submitted. The third one we just submitted last Thursday.
Okay.
And I think we've gone through, I think we got along on that one too. I have not heard anything from Hector. But the
We'll
other
find
ones,
out
he
tomorrow.
came back with other questions that we had answered, and he said it was good news, it was gone to phase 3. I don't know what that means or how many phases there are, because it seems like there's always another one. But,
Appears like there's 3 levels of approval.
Yeah.
Hector's, 1 level up, and then the final. How long that takes, I don't know.
Okay.
What's the total number again of projects that we're planning to submit?
26
What,
projects? Total projects?
that we've submitted?
No, that we plan to.
Oh, well, before we get done, I think it's, well, we're gonna combine some of them.
We
There's
have
33 damage projects.
Okay,
Individually, but he
Yeah.
said that,
combine some.
if they're small numbers, we can combine them. So I'm gonna estimate 20 maybe.
Yeah. And we've submitted 3
Well,
sites so
it'd
far?
be 6
Right.
by the end of the week.
Okay.
And how's our cash flow going? Have we paid the contractors?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's paid.
Everybody's paid?
Everybody's paid. I
Except
still
for the
have
town.
not- And I still have not borrowed against the line of credit,
Okay,
but it's coming close. I mean, we only got 600,000 and we got 6 months. So, but I've not had to borrow against that yet.
okay.
Hoping we start seeing some money coming in from FEMA. But here again, because of how we submit the projects, it's been a trickle.
Have you heard from any other towns how their cash flow is?
I know the town of Bridgewater has borrowed 4.5 million towards FEMA projects that they had up there.
Do you know if FEMA's reimbursed them for anything?
They haven't even submitted anything yet.
Oh, boy.
They had a lot more bridge damages than we did.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know about any of the other towns.
I don't know of anybody that's gotten a FEMA reimbursement yet.
I have not heard of that.
There's a lot of towns I've talked to, people I've talked to, and they all saying the same thing. We're in the process of submitting, but the ones we've submitted, we haven't seen any money. So
And it's supposedly we will get notified from the state as to when we have to, then we request the money from the state. Once everything.
So FEMA pays the state and we request it from the state?
We also get a percentage from the state. Cause we do all the things we're supposed to do with the state, so we get 17% from the state, 75% and 17% from the state. So
Okay,
And these two bridges that the Archer Bridge and the other, the 233 and the 444, they're part of this FEMA program reimbursement, right?
correct. We haven't requested any funds from them yet. We're in the process of doing that right now. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question, I know you probably don't have an exact number, but can you give us a rough idea about how many hours you think the select board and the town employees have spent just on FEMA compliance since the storm?
How many hours you got in, Bob?
Oh,
How many Saturdays we've been riding the roads, taking GPS locations?
I don't know. The hours that are in there, Bill,
They will reimburse for that to some extent, right?
A lot of those hours are hours that we would have spent working on the roads anyway. And I'm not sure how FEMA's gonna handle that. They're all,
yeah, I mean, we will get reimbursed for the labor that was done to fix the roads out to the front.
I'm just trying to get a feel for how much additional workload this has caused for the select board and the town, is all I'm trying to do. I'm not
The
concerned.
highway guys, is not much, because they would have been working anyway, and we would have been paying them. There was very little overtime actually with this. We would have been paying them anyway. We will get reimbursed for that money now. As far as Bob's time, I have no idea how much time he's put in. I know I've put in a lot of time, but I also know that we will get reimbursed for a lot of that time. That's the final thing that we can submit, is administrative hours.
what FEMA does is they give you 5% of the total cost that can be spent on administration. And Hector's comment was, nobody ever gets near that number, generally never gets near that number for administration. So,
Yeah, I'm less concerned about the financial end of it as I am just the impact on people and your additional workload, that's all I'm trying to get at.
yeah, it's been pretty steady for 5 months now.
Probably measured in hundreds of hours or thousands of hours, what do you think?
I don't know.
I've probably been doing at least 10 hours a week on just FEMA flood-related issues. Yeah,
I can tell you, last
Probably
week was
hundreds,
pretty near
not
40.
thousands.
40 hours last week alone.
Yeah, because I was trying to get all the pictures of all the finished projects before we got this snow. And so I spent those several 8-hour days and one 10-hour day just getting pictures and GPS numbers.
Thank you.
anything else?
We drove around on the roads this weekend, and I have to say, considering the conditions the town's gone through over the past several months since July and these floods, my hat's off to all of you and our road crew. It's rough out there, but it's nothing like it could be if the job wasn't done right. So thank you.
Yeah, we're always fighting Mother Nature some way.
Oh, yeah.
I will also say this, we had several culverts that did not handle the water and caused major damage because they didn't handle the water. All of those culverts have been changed, and I checked them on the 18th of December, every one of them. And they were all taking the water for that day. They were full, but at least they weren't running down the side of the road. And obviously, we increased the size of them when we changed them. But
Yeah. We've got extensive repairs on 20 Mile Stream coming up this year too. We applied for a grant,
Yep.
plus we got culverts to replace, so. That's over and above FEMA funding.
Yeah, that grant total came up to $45,659.60. The state will only pay us $20,000, which leaves $25,000 to be paid by the town. However, there is 39,000 of that, which is contracted hours, excavators, trucks, and stuff like that. And we've talked, and we may have to split that portion of it into 2 years so that our reimbursement is much closer to, or our total payment is much closer to the reimbursement plus our 25%. 20%, excuse me, $25,000.
Yeah.
So it may be it may end up being a 2-year project. But that's what it was, $45,659.
Good. Any other questions on bridges and roads and FEMA? Okay, appointments to the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Adjustment discussion. Mark, you have anything to say about that?
Just that we had an open interview process, and we had 4 candidates, and we would like to recommend Eve Waterfall, who is here, and Jane Karch, who's our recording secretary, for appointment for the 2 openings.
You had 4 applications?
We did.
Yeah, that's good.
We had 5, and then one pulled out her application after speaking to me.
Mm-hmm. You have any comments on the recommendations?
No, I mean, is there anything that you want to share as far as, why Eve and Jane, why not the other folks, or just let it stand at that?
I would let it stand, and on Okemo Valley TV, there's our discussion and
Okay.
number of questions, and they're both fantastic, qualified candidates, and we'd be very, very lucky to have them.
Great. So do we need to vote and approve?
We need to make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Planning
All
Commission.
right, and I move to approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission for the addition of the 2 new candidates.
And that would be for terms until 2025.
Both of them?
Yeah, what is the
Both- yeah,
term
both
of these?
2025, I believe.
Yeah, right now, we don't have any terms of any of the Planning Commission members, right? Do
Well,
we have,
Yeah, we do.
Stacy took Jean's spot, so that's 2024. And Mark took Steve Straight's, which is 2026. These 2 here are both 2025.
Yeah, I think there was an error made a couple of years ago on the dates.
Yeah.
We need to look at that.
When in March, when,
I think if you go back 2 or 3 years, you'll find where that person that was reappointed to the same term that was already there. Instead of a 5-year term.
Instead of staggering everything.
Right.
So in March, the select board sets the terms for all the different dates for the commissions. So would the planning commission like to have input on that, of those dates?
I think we keep them,
Okay,
I'm speaking for myself, I think we keep them as they are.
okay,
They'll be staggered.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to accept the recommendation for the planning commission for the 2 new appointees. There's a second?
Yeah, I guess so.
Discussion?
I was a little disappointed. There was a lady that did apply who's lived in town, I don't know, 40 years or so. Worked with the town as a health officer for many years, owns 80 acres up on Tattle Street, and didn't seem to get much support from any of the planning commission members.
I would like to jump in that she showed up to the meeting alone. All the other candidates, the 4 candidates I was referring to, all sent letters of interest, some of which they sent to you ahead of time, but they all sent us letters of interest that we were able to read. Holly Morse just came to the meeting.
That's correct. I was just saying that I know her, and I think she would have made a good addition to the commission.
And we might have opportunities for her to join the commission
Yeah.
soon.
Kevin?
Yeah, you can be disappointed, but I think the feeling was generally, if you're good managers, you try to surround yourself with a number of people who are smarter than you, and we felt that they fell into that category. And at the meeting, I believe you said there should be no problem, but if you're disappointed, I understand that.
Yeah, that's,
I assume that she can still attend, be a part of the meetings,
oh yeah,
Yeah.
potentially
Anybody
join in the
can.
future. Right.
anybody can.
Yep.
One thought, speaking from a resident's perspective, it might be nice to consider a 7-member board again.
That worked real well. That worked real well.
And
It actually did work very
And
well.
actually, we've had planning commissions with 9 members before, which worked very well. A lot of our platform that we operate on today is a result of a 9-member board. I'm thinking diversity on the board. Holly's Tattle Street, Aaron is up off of what, Grasshopper? Eve's on Town Hill Road, Jane's on Town Hill Road. I'm over here on that side, so I'm just thinking diversity on the board. That's my only comment.
Yeah, I have an opinion as well.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Mark.
Oh, no, I just also, if you, feel free to go online on YouTube to Okemo Valley TV, the whole hearing is there. Holly made a point of saying multiple times that she was here to help and to act as a live body because she saw the Front Porch Forum posting and she thought if we really needed somebody that she would step in. She's a fantastic person, but she has never historically, in the 3 years I've been attended a planning commission board, and we have had Eve Waterfall for at least about 3 years attending routinely the planning commission meetings and the select board, and Jane is our recording secretary who knows the ins and outs also for 3 years? 2 years. So.
Yeah, I don't want any of either the 2 people that you recommended to take my statement wrong. It's just that I've known Holly for many, many years, and that's basically where I'm coming from. But I don't want Eve or Jane to take that statement as I don't want them, but.
Well, we had a fully functional board until the recommendation for 7 was made. And we know there was acrimony, but I think things will come out well, and I'm optimistic.
So you're staying, Kevin?
Yeah, I can always change my mind. I think it's a free country, isn't it? You can go with that guy.
Ask him if it's free at our house.
No, he's military, right? So, front and center.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Yeah.
He seconded it.
You
I'm
second?
sorry, yeah.
Okay.
You made the motion.
I
right?
did.
Okay, I'll second.
All right, all those in favor of appointing the 2 new members to the PCZBA, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. I think there's a document in the Planning Commission ordinances, rules and procedures that would probably be good for all the new members to look at.
They have been sent in,
They have?
yes.
Okay. Okay, Emergency Watershed Protection Plan. Bob?
Sure. So I mentioned last time that the state had approved a number of the sites, 4 of the sites that we submitted for this emergency watershed protection program, but that the funding had not been available yet. We were just notified that the funding is available for those 4 sites. And so the process is for us to apply for the grants for these sites. And this is a cost share arrangement where we have to pay, the town has to pay 25% and the state will pay 75%. This is not for repair of any damage that was done during the floods, but this is more protection for preventing things in the future. So the 4 sites that we had, one was Agony Hill. If you look at the culvert there's a lot of debris just upstream of it. And even further upstream, the riverbank has been washed away, so we'll be armoring and getting rid of the debris there, along with 3 sites up Bailey's Mills Road, along Millbrook at that point. So we'll be starting to fill out the applications for those grants and starting that work, as soon as we get approval from the state.
I have a question, Bob.
Yes.
The amount of money that was set aside for each one of those projects, who came up with that dollar value?
That was the state that came up with that dollar value. Yep.
So we've had contractors that bid on some of those locations. And those contractors' numbers came in cheaper than what the state did.
Right.
So, and we have to pay 20% of what the state recommends.
Probably not. That would be nice if that was the case, but
We only
So-
have to pay 25% of what the actual cost is.
Well, the actual
The
cost.
actual
All right,
cost.
good. So, all right, so we're gonna send these out to bid.
correct.
So that's just a budget number
But
that
we
the
can't,
state.
send it out to bid until we get the grant approval from the state.
Okay,
And then we'll send them out to bid, and then we'll send the bids to the state. The state will say, go, and then we can award,
okay.
okay?
Because I thought those numbers were quite inflated.
They're high, yeah, which is good, I think, for us.
Yes.
We'll definitely fall within those. And much like the FEMA issues, there's administrative costs that can be added into that too. So we'll be reimbursed for our our time in taking care of this.
Can the 25% be sent to FEMA as a project?
It's not a FEMA
No.
project.
Not,
No, I'm saying, can it be
No.
submitted to them?
oh, I see what you're
No.
saying.
Yeah.
FEMA will not participate in any of this work.
Right. They will allow us to have that 25% done in kind. So if we want to provide any labor, materials, things like that, we can count that towards our portion of the cost.
If there'll be some people that'll have to direct traffic and do that kind of work, if we chose to do that, that would go against the 25%.
Right.
If we did any trucking, that would go against the 25%. We probably won't do much trucking because this is big rock. I mean, really big rock, so. But there's 2 of those sites that FEMA wouldn't pay anything for anyway. They already told us that. The other 2, not really sure.
Yeah. So if we can get FEMA to pay, there's not a cost share there, so we'd rather have that done, correct? Than pursue
There's
the EWP.
a cost share, but it's a lot less.
Okay.
There was, after the flooding, there was, information published, about, leaving debris in place. So how is it determined, where that becomes excessive and needs to be removed? Do you understand what I'm trying to?
I do. Are you talking about debris like trees? Or are you talking about household debris from a flood?
Trees and mostly timber.
Right.
So from what I understood, the state was recommending was leave it in place.
In the brooks.
Yeah.
Correct. And so we submitted, I don't remember, 8 or 9 different sites that we took the state around to. They looked at it, and their criteria was that would this potentially cause more damage in the future? Not necessarily just damage, say, to the brook, would the brook widen, but would there be buildings or structures that could be damaged as a result of this debris sitting where it is? If there was imminent danger or potential damage, then the state decided to fund the removal in those areas. But if there wasn't, then they said, no, we're going to leave this big pile of trees right where it is because we don't think it's going to hurt anything of significant value.
So I know that there's a spot off of Bailey's Mill in the brook, just below Town Hill Road starts, where there beyond the culvert, there's a tremendous amount of debris and timber. Is that going to be removed as well?
That is one of the sites right where I think it's Bailey Brook comes in and meets Millbrook, right there. Yes, that's one of the sites that's going to be cleaned up.
So it's going to be more than just boulders, it's going to include the debris?
Correct. So there's 2 different things. There's debris removal and then there's boulders or the armoring of the bank. Both of those are going to be done for certain areas.
They use the definition of debris is anything like it can be gravel, it can be silt, it can be
Trees.
rocks and boulders, it can be trees. It all falls under the word debris. So we can take those out. They based that on the fact that as they rot, if we have another high water event, they could come down and damage the bridge at the lower end of Bailey's Mills. The other spot is right across the road from Derrick Chase. There's a small washout there.
Right.
High water would let that cave in, the road would be gone. They consider road a structure. They consider a bridge a structure. So it's a broad definition when you talk about structures as to what they're saying qualifies as getting damaged that allows us to do some work. It doesn't have to be a building or anything like that. Gary?
Gordy, what's the latest on the Indian Stone site down there? Is there any update on what they're planning on doing down there, or what we can do down there?
We sent out bids, when was it? October, November?
Yeah.
Then we got some snow and we ended up saying we're not gonna do anything at the Indian Stones until next spring. And then we found this flood money that the state was gonna guarantee us. And is that Indian Stone site on that?
It is not.
It is not.
No.
Okay.
It's one that we submitted, but they declined to fund that one.
That's basically gonna end up being on the town if we put it back, which we intend to do.
Yeah.
Is to put it back. The reason being, Gary, is there's no structure south of there, if you will, that's in the town of Reading that's going to be jeopardized if that stuff moves again.
But just upstream of that is the flooding area. It crosses the road right there on 106, where there's a significant amount of debris upstream. It comes down and clogs just prior to Indian Stone, it could definitely wash out a good portion of the highway right there. And I was led to understand that there was a plan being submitted for that work to be done next spring. But I have yet to see that as one of the contributing property persons.
I don't think there's any plan to work on
No,
that field.
the state has been made aware of that. In fact, I took pictures on December 18th of how close that water was getting to 106. I sent them to AOT. I have not heard a word about it. Mr. Hall has said he was going to leave the brook and allow it to go where it wants to go, and I'm not really in favor of that, but it's his land. There's not much I can say about it other than to alert the state that there's a possibility of damage to 106 if something isn't done there, so, and I've done that.
Since the December 18th high water, the river's changed course again, and it's back over in its original location. So
Yeah.
there's not much water coming into the field now.
Yeah, but the head cut is all on my property, and there's a large amount of debris in that head cut, which that is now evidenced as part of where the river likes to move. And if it decides to move and dam back up like it did in the summer, and it moves back into the field, there's a significant chance that it will, continue to dump debris into the head cut and create a significant damming issue, which it will absolutely flood 106 where it did this summer, because that's the low spot, is right where the creek that comes through my land goes across and under 106 and joins right where the end of my land is and Indian Stone begins. None of that is Hall property.
You can, there was a site that we applied for up Bailey's Mills that they denied, but they did say that the landowner can apply to the Emergency Watershed Protection Program for some help, but we cannot. We can sponsor you, but we cannot apply for you.
Yeah, I had talked to Marie, I don't think she's here today, and I haven't been in touch with her in the last few months, but someone else, another representative from the state that works with her, came by our house a few weeks ago and knocked on our door and talked to us and said that he was writing an additional letter recommending that the work be done because of the severity of the head cut. He made a statement that it was the worst he'd seen in the 15 years that he'd been working for the state in river management. So I had never applied for those funds because I was under the impression that all of that work was being done through the state and through the city. So if I need to get the ball rolling independently, that would be good to know.
Yeah, I think that's your start right there. The co-pay is exactly the same for an individual as it is for the town, 75-25. But you will have to have a sponsorship letter from us, which we'll gladly write.
Okay. And we're not outside the window.
That we agree that, something needs to be done there, basically.
I think they've extended that deadline several times. It still probably is operational, optional.
For the Emergency Watershed Program, I don't know that there is a deadline. I think you can
Right.
apply for that.
This is something you
anytime.
can apply anytime. Right.
May I comment? Now, was that a state engineer or a federal engineer? Because I think we're confusing state money, and what EWP is run through the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and they have engineers that come out and call your site what's called an exigency site. And right on, you can apply as an individual, and there's an office up in White River Junction. If-
Right by the Comfort Inn.
Yeah, it's right in back of the post office. And you can go in there, and it's probably to your advantage to go in personally. If
Take some-
nobody's there, go across the hall to the Farm Service Agency and make sure that people know you were there and that you have a concern about your landscape. Now, in terms of the landscape, I don't want to take up a lot of time here, but the landscape at the Indian Stones, I was wondering what the vision is for that and what the perceived threat is to those historic markers.
Well, I thought, just to add to that we had an engineer who had drawn up plans that the state, and it was the state agency that I had been talking to,
Right.
working with Marie and this other gentleman that stopped by. So that may be an issue where the state denied that funding, but I don't know where that was working on the change or
The
Things may have
EWP,
changed administratively, but the state has hydrologic engineers and stream alteration engineers as well as the federal ones, and they work in concert and they share funds.
I believe the gentleman was Fitzgerald, or
What's his name?
Fitzgerald or Fitzpatrick, it was a hydrologic engineer.
Oh,
His
okay.
company had come out and drawn up plans, and I'll reach out to Marie and see.
Yeah, she should know, she's on that timeline.
yeah, the EWP program is a state-funded program.
Emergency watershed protection,
Yes.
state of Vermont.
Yes. That's what they told
Well,
us.
Okay.
it's exactly what you were just talking about, the Department of Natural Resources.
It used to be the Soil Conservation Service, and they used to put riprap all up and down the White River. They actually did a project at the Indian Stones, and I went over the design, actually, and they put in drop structures for trout habitat as well in that site, and that got washed out right there. There's a huge amount of force coming in around that corner. And it's trying to mitigate itself. Anyhow, I'll stop chit-chatting.
Any other questions on emergency watershed protection plan? Yes, sir.
Just wondering, is this a part of the local hazard mitigation plan that was adopted in 2022? There's a 105-page document on the town website, progress on the mitigation strategies and actions for 2022 through 2027.
No, this was not addressed in our hazard mitigation plan that we put together. This is where we were looking at all natural disasters and things like that. I don't believe that we had included EWP in any of our planning for that.
But I mean, you have there's about a 5-page rubric of a monitoring system, and I'm just wondering when we could be made aware of it. You have mitigation action or strategy. I mean, that's what armoring, that's what you're talking about. Progress made, funding sought, next steps, responsible party, time frame. I would imagine all of these projects are supposed to be aligned with the flood hazard mitigation plan that the town adopted in 2022.
So I would say everything that you just talked about there, Mark, we're absolutely going to do. I mean, we have to have a project plan that's put together that lists dates and milestones and costs. And
I just thought maybe 2 of these were working in harmony with one another, because there hasn't been an update since 2022 other than this document. There hasn't been any updates this year, 2023, as to where we stand on the flood.
Isn't it updated every 5 years?
5 years.
Yeah. So that's going to be covered through 27.
So I'm sorry, I thought there's supposed to be annual reporting. I don't know if Sarah wants to speak to that.
Sarah?
But when something's, if a plan is meant to be guiding the community's actions, and something significant happens during that time, you mean you wait the 5 years and don't incorporate the realities of when there is a provision for an annual update and review?
I mean, the form is called Annual Monitoring Form for 2022 through 2027. High priority, moderate priority, low priority.
It seems as if you are doing important things that should simply be integrated together. I think that's the.
in some kind of an annual report that would say we did this, and as part of our hazard mitigation plan.
And right, because in fact it may be indicating we've made some changes in the way that we're approaching something, so that these documents remain with integrity.
Yeah, right.
And from what I understand, this hazard mitigation plan that was adopted, that we were ahead of, allowed us to get the maximum amount of reimbursement from the federal agencies for these type of disasters.
Correct.
So we have this document because Reading had the foresight into working on these pieces. I'm just wondering how your projects work with this.
It's a valid question.
Yeah.
I mean, have we created one of these annual reports before under this?
I don't know if we've ever seen one. We'll have to look into that, Mark. I can't answer your question
Yeah.
right now, but
There may be a form that is sent that we just sign off on
yeah,
every year.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, in the document, I mean, just, I think it would warrant looking at it, but there are thresholds where it's select board is involved in this part, planning commission is involved in this part, town clerk is involved in this part. So there are roles and responsibilities that are developed through this, and
Okay.
this is important.
Kevin?
Yeah, I think, to arrest some of the anxiety about the plan, I think, correct me if anybody knows differently, but you can update these plans. It doesn't have to be 5 years.
I
mean,
know.
that's the deadline, right, Robert?
You can update them as often as you think you need to,
Right.
but you have to update them within 5 years.
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
okay.
You're right. That particular plan there was a grant written, and Mark, Mount Scottney Regional Commission did a tremendous amount of work for us on that, as far as making sure that we dotted the i's and crossed the t's to, as Mark said, get the maximum amount of benefit from something like what has just happened. In other words, we get 17.5% instead of 12.5% or 5%. It's kind of graduated, so we are in the highest category that we can get into as far as additional money over and above the 75% FEMA pays.
Yeah. I think the town did their homework on that, so, thank you.
So going forward, all of these activities that we have coming up with emergency watershed plan and the FEMA work, bridge updates, those are all documents that will be included in the next wave of the hazard mitigation plan. So all of these documents will be assisting us in establishing that next plan.
I hear what you're saying, but I also hear what Mark's saying about there's some kind of an annual report. I don't know if it's required, if it's desired, if it's helpful. Suggested, right. I think we need to, I don't
imagine
understand.
you'd need one if you didn't have a flood.
But we got a flood,
Yeah.
right?
And could it
Yeah.
be updates that you're providing us on a monthly basis at this meeting?
Would that serve?
Consider those-
Yeah, right.
I just think having, maybe it's the former teacher and myself, but maybe having this graphic organizer just updated online once in a while, just to be able to track to see what has been done, what hasn't been done, seeing that we have the high impact, moderate impact, low impact pieces, and just sort of seeing how that is. I mean, there's references to 20 Mile Stream Road, there's reference to the Black River, there's reference to, Tattle, Stone Chimney, Newton, Jenny Road, et cetera, just to be able to see where it's fitting in.
The listers need to be included in this because they have a good handle on some of the FEMA maps changes and stuff, so we can talk about that later.
We'll take a look at it. The best way to get that started is contact Mark, because they will be right up to date on any reports that we should be filing, have filed, or have not filed, for that matter. And we'll start there.
Anything else on EWP?
Just back to that lady, I would definitely investigate that if I were you, because you can apply.
Yes, sir.
All right. Declaration of inclusion letter. Bob, you've done your homework on this one.
No, nothing new, so let's move on to another one.
Table it.
No, I'm just kidding.
The next one is adjournment.
Oh no, they don't get away that quickly here. I'm going to hand out, last month when we did this, I felt like I was reading different versions all the time. And I'm sure it went over a lot of people's heads. So the short answer here is after 4 months, I believe that we are ready to adopt an inclusion declaration tonight. There are 2 different versions that I'm handing out here right now. When we got together last time, we had a draft that was specific to Reading, and then there was a question about adding a few little things in here and there. I've added those in. That version is the top version where it says full version that you're going to see. And then I said that we were going to check with the nonprofit organization that's championing this effort for the state and see if they would accept what we have written. I've checked with them. They have accepted. They are very much in favor of the changes that we've made, the additions that we've made. They like that. And so we were ready to go forward with what I'm listing there as the full version, when some other folks came in and said, well, anytime you start to list all of these organizations, any group that might feel slighted, you have the potential to not include somebody. So you have the potential by listing all of these different marginalized groups of actually being less inclusive because there may be somebody here that you didn't include who's going to feel slighted. So the second tailored version is a shorter version that simply says, you can see what the wording says. It simply says, we agree with not, I've seen it so many times, we formally condemn discrimination in all of its forms without listing all the different marginalized groups. Went back to the nonprofit organization to get their thoughts and impressions on this. And they said a number of towns have had the same concern, but their charter is that they need to see all of these marginalized groups listed. So any rewrite that we pull those organizations or those people out of, they are not going to endorse, stand behind, or allow us to be included on their list.
Have they offered to proactively communicate to all towns that have adopted an acceptable version when there is a new group that they are recognizing? Or are they, because that would make our lives a heck of a lot easier. We go with option number 1, they let us know if there's a new group that we should be cognizant of, we revise it, but if not, then how are we supposed to, for lack of a better term, keep up with any groups? I see both sides of the argument.
Yeah,
and
I do too, which is frankly why we're laying it out this way. And I'll say, I don't want to spend a lot of time arguing, debating this. I would like to get it out there for folks, make sure you have the information, get a few comments and thoughts, and then we're gonna make a decision here, if that's okay. When that nonprofit organization said no to the second item, then I went back and asked, okay, what does it mean to us as a town to actually be on your list? If we're making an inclusivity statement, does that mean there's something that your organization provides that we are not going to be eligible for? And the short answer is no. There are no grants, there's no technical assistance that this organization provides. They point us to other ones at the state level or at VLCT or something like that we can apply for, but there's nothing that particular organization provides that we would not be eligible for. So, I mean, that's just a data point. So, the way I'd like to handle this, and I do want to hear comments, I'd ask the comments kind of be directed up here to us. I don't want to get in a lot of debate back and forth with everybody, so let's just say, keep the comments straight. Yep, Mark.
Just one point that hasn't been brought up is that in both option 1 and option 2, that's not in the declaration, it really goes heavy into Governor Phil Scott. And Vermont has one of the few states that has a two-year term for a governor. What happens when Governor Scott goes away? So we're just going to adopt the declaration based on what he's put, or we're going to adopt a declaration that is just universally correct and time after time, governor after governor?
When the governor leaves, his inclusivity declaration does not leave with him. I mean, that's a declaration that's made at the state level. So unless that's rescinded, reversed, changed, it's still in place. So,
Okay.
okay? Comments? Yes, ma'am.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So if we are not included on the list with the tailored version,
Yep.
the sanctioned list, are we still allowed to use the vernacular that this is a statement of inclusion?
We're making our own statement of inclusivity.
I think we still get counted
Right.
on their website as one
Right.
of the towns that has adopted it.
Yeah, I mean, and
For clarification.
right. My concern, I've gone back and forth on this so many times. My concern with this is, personally, I like the tailored version, but I also don't want us to be perceived by others as not caring about inclusivity if we're not on this other list that everybody seems to feel is the master list of inclusivity. So I don't want that to be a unintended consequence of us going down with a tailored version versus the full version. I don't think we can go wrong really with kind of either version at this point. I think we need to just make the statement and move on. So, other thoughts, comments? Sarah?
Just have a question, just for clarity. So the group doesn't have control over the technical assistance or the grants,
Correct.
but do we know whether the state equity group or the
LCT.
VLTC actually do look at whether you're on the list or not when they are making their judgments about applications for this?
It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, is she on? Maybe she can answer the question.
Yeah, I'm with the Declaration Inclusion Initiative, and we're 5 volunteers that are going all over the state and visiting towns like Reading. So we're not an organization, we don't have any resources, we're not paid, we don't have any money, we're doing everything on our own dimes. And as far as doing the full version will probably help your chances with some of the grants and some of the resources out there. It probably is not a prerequisite. You probably don't absolutely need it. But we do think it would be helpful, and there are reasons why we think, groups, although they might not include everyone right now, we think it's advantageous to have these groups because they are the most marginalized and the most visible, and it's a sign that the town recognizes them. And then also, I think it helps those groups think that they are included and thought of well in whatever town they're in. So we have added a 5th person who can help direct towns to the resources that are available. But once again, we're just volunteers, and we don't speak for anyone. We're not partisan. This is just an effort that we started a couple of years ago, and we think that it helps communities and the state position themselves better for getting more workers, for economic development, and for addressing some civil issues out there.
Is that Barbara on the line?
Yes, it is.
Barbara, I just want to thank you. I know we've gone back and forth a bunch of times over the last several weeks, so thank you for all your inputs and your help in this.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Okay. Any other comments? Eve? Yes.
So, for what it's worth, I applaud this group of volunteers for thinking about issues like this. As someone who actually is in one of the groups that appears in option 1, the full version, I like the elegance of option 2. I think it's very all-inclusive. I think it's not calling out specific groups. I think that it doesn't need revisions if new marginalized groups become protected by law. It basically tracks Option one is basically tracking state law, although it's adding in socioeconomic status, which is not a protected class in the law. And it's leaving some things out. So for example, HIV status is protected from employment discrimination in Vermont. It's leaving out domestic crime victims, which are also protected in certain categories of discrimination law. So I like option two for what it's worth. And I say that as someone who appears on the list in option one. So maybe I feel like I have a little credibility. That's all.
Well said.
Thank you. I see a lot of head nods around as we're doing this. I'm really reluctant to put this to a vote, but I would kind of interested now.
As long as you don't see any pitchforks yet, then I think you're okay.
All right. So I've heard from a proponent for option one. Any proponents for option two?
Eve?
I'm sorry, I'm Sarah.
Option two.
Okay, for the tailored version, are there any proponents for the full version? Mark? Okay.
I
Do you
actually
want-
am in a group with Eve in option one, and I feel like she said this option two is an elegant way to do this, and it's all inclusive. It's not separating out anyone.
Okay.
I just want
Jerry.
to sort of a comment that we can certainly table this for future, but I would hope that this doesn't stop with whatever our decision is today. I think the intention of the movement that was started here, as I mentioned in the last meeting, there are additional steps and actions that they hope to inspire, and I think we left the last meeting in a position where I think the three of you felt like the ask was a lot on top of your regular responsibilities. So I hope in future months we can consider an individual or another committee to help put forward the changes and the efforts that they're driving towards, that this statement is kind of only the first step towards.
And that's a really good point. And you're right. This once we decide, it is not set in stone. You know, we could readdress this at any point. And I'll tell you, Jerry, I intentionally didn't get into the review of the policies and procedures, just because it's beyond our abilities to do that. But if we adopt this, I was planning in future meetings here to start asking for volunteers. It's probably going to take a small committee to agree to do this with some help from the state, some whatever resources the state might have to guide us in these policy reviews for unintentional bias that may be in the language of anything.
Yeah,
Okay.
Step one.
Right. Yeah, this is step one. Today is step one. Yep. Eve?
The only thing I would add isn't for the select board, but is really for the group of volunteers who is moving this through the state, is that I would hope that they would reconsider whether to exclude us from their list of non-discriminatory towns, because I think saying that we welcome everybody and want everybody to feel safe and welcome should surely qualify, whether I'm appearing on the list or not. That would be my ask.
Barbara, did you hear that ask? I don't know if you're in a position to address that or not.
Yeah, I did hear that. As you mentioned earlier, some other towns have asked the same question about why they can't just not list the groups. And you know, we've thought long and hard about this, and we've talked to all these towns and explained to them why we think it's important that marginalized groups be listed, and they have understood, and they went ahead and listed them. We know that it does not include everyone. It is open, you know, we are open to adding to it, as you know, as towns ask us to. So it's not a static list, but it's something we feel very strongly about the message that it sends and who's hearing that message and why it might be important to hear their marginalized group spoken of or written down in such a declaration.
We
And
understand that.
it gives the town a list to keep in mind too. Like, are we reaching all these people? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I guess we understand that. I kind of come back to my final concern, I think, on this, which is um, if we make our inclusivity statement proclamation and we are not included on your list, does that send the wrong message to people who happen to be perusing your list? So, I mean, would there be any way for you to include us with an asterisk or something like that, and that says that we have absolutely made a statement of inclusivity and acceptance? It's just, slightly modified from what you all have made.
Yeah, we might do kind of a Barry Bonds asterisk or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, we have a list that we put on our website, that's distributed, around, and we have a map. So I think, to be fair with all of the towns that have, understood where we're coming from, and included the groups, I don't think we can put you on the map, which is unfortunate. We would like to see every community in Vermont on that map, and I think that sends a huge message, to people living here and people considering living here and working here, making a living here. So, yeah, I mean, I think there is a possibility of some sort of asterisk, but we've been down this road a number of times, and the governor's proclamation lists the marginalized groups.
Yep.
And that was in 2021, and that has changed.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. So we've heard,
So did she just say they wouldn't put us on the map if we did?
Yes.
what I took is that they would not put us on the map, but they would consider some acknowledgement, an asterisk or a separate list or something like that.
Does the state have a map of who's adopted this?
No,
Only
it's this.
Barbara's operation?
Correct.
So Bob, we're not on the map. She has seen these two versions?
She has.
And she's approved.
No, that's what we were just talking about. She's approved the first one, the full version, but not the tailored one.
And with all due respect, it's her initiative, it's her
Sure.
organization, so
Yeah.
you're making a statement by not adopting word for word what they have allegiances to the essence, the
Right.
what's true to their
And we
their
have,
organization,
right,
which is fair.
and we have ours. So we're trying to figure what's right for our town. Mayor?
So, I mean, aren't you gonna put our statement out on our website, so if anybody's looking, they can see that we have our own and we are including everyone?
Right.
I mean, I think that speaks louder than
Understood.
that. I mean, if anybody really is coming here to live and they wanna know, I'm gonna go
No,
to the town and look at all that.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bill.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm assuming that the difference between version 1 and version 2 is that one of those versions lists off various groups that are, that are sort of thought about, and the other one does not. Just sort of goes with the general statement of everybody. Am I correct? Okay.
That's correct.
All right. I'm gonna be personally honest. I'm actually really struggling with this one because while I recognize that you would want to list off every possible group that is protected and even those that aren't protected, just to talk about inclusivity. I mean, I understand that, like, when you sort of lump it into everybody, I mean, that is truly everybody. But when I think about it sort of from the outside looking in, I'm almost feeling like we're creating something that the point that we're emphasizing might actually be missed. Because we say everybody, but I think it's important. I think there's benefit when people can see a group that they identify as being part of and they see it listed off. And while I do recognize that there's a lot of sensitivity around trying to include every single possible type of group. I mean, to a certain extent, I think that's an impossible task. So I'm just concerned that while we're trying to bolster what we're doing by saying everybody and leaving it at that, I'm concerned that we're actually, in effect, watering it down. Those are just my thoughts.
Thanks, Bill.
Sure.
Okay. One final comment, then I want to hear the other selectmen, their comments.
Just a note towards the full version.
Yep.
I agree wholeheartedly with what the gentleman just said. I do see both sides of the argument. I see the point of, if you want to move to Reading, maybe look at Reading. Most people moving to the state, I will say, is a very recent transplant. I wanted to move to Vermont, but with the housing crisis, there's no telling what city you're going to end up in. I just happen to find a place that fit my family's needs in Reading. But most people don't look at moving to a community specifically. They look to moving to a general geographic area. And my concern is that very much so, having Reading be a black hole on that map speaks volumes. That's my opinion from someone who very recently has moved here. I would much rather see marginalized groups know specifically that they're supported, rather than what seems to almost skirt around the issue by just saying everyone. And I know it is impossible to include every group on a list, but I agree that, my kids go to Woodstock for school, and they recently just had a very horrific discrimination incident occur in the theater there. And I'm working with the school now to adopt some kind of statement of inclusivity.
Just for everybody's knowledge, I think there are 247 towns and cities, municipalities in the state, and I believe 131, Barbara, correct me if I'm wrong, have adopted it. So roughly half of the towns and cities have adopted it.
There's 251.
251, I'm sorry.
But 70% of the Vermont
70% of the population,
communities.
right. 70% of the population, 50% of the towns by number, yeah.
But we haven't gotten to all the towns yet.
Okay.
Is there a 1A that says including but not limited to? Version 1A?
There's no more versions.
That satisfies.
You will take one of these two versions and you will like it. All right, can I ask, Bob and Gordy, we've been hearing kind of what the town has to say, and I just want to know it's up to us.
Yep.
What do you guys think?
I think both versions are, kind of hit the nail on the head. One version might be a little more technical than the other. Version 1 is somewhat explicit, but it doesn't include everybody, like version 2 does.
Right.
I would be in favor of version 2. But it wouldn't get on the map.
Right.
Yeah, I
But it
agree
would be
with
on
that
our
because
website.
I believe that if they really want to show what towns have adopted any sort of declaration of inclusion, they're going to have to make some changes to their philosophy and include towns that have said what we're trying to say in option 2.
Right.
Because she admitted that they've had conversations with other towns. And I like the short version myself, tailored version myself.
Okay.
And I'd be disappointed if the group that is pushing this doesn't recognize that the towns that are doing something like that, rather than the full paragraph, if you will, with all the names and all the different situations. If they don't recognize that, then I think they're missing a point.
Okay. Well, you guys made the decision. It's two against one. So
What's your version?
No, I have to say, I think I said, I alluded to it at the beginning. I'm really torn on this as well. If I had to make a decision between the two, I would choose the tailored version as well. With the acknowledgement that this is not a final decision. I mean,
Works in progress.
it's something that can change depending on what the nonprofit organization decides to do, what the state decides to do. If we, the town, want to make a different declaration, this is, at this point in time, this is what I believe we could do or should do. So, but there are before we have this vote, I think there are two key points that I really want to make. First, and Jerry, you hit on it. All we're doing is coming up with a couple of paragraphs that we're going to post here, right? That is not the intent of this whole effort. And Bill was talking about that too. We don't want to get lost in just settling on one of these things. This is a way of life that we're trying to make sure the public knows Reading is adopting. If we haven't already done it, we're just making that formal statement that we will not tolerate discrimination, that we will be accepting and inclusive of everybody. Okay? And that's something that I'm hoping we're going to continue to push forward and continue to do. All the committees will do, just every single member of the community will do, right? The second thing that I wanted to point out was, I don't know when it happened. It happened years ago that it seemed like if you don't agree with a person, then all of a sudden it's like you just can't have any kind of discussion with that person. It's just that person doesn't agree with me. He or she is an idiot, and we're going to move on. I don't want that to be the case. I want us to be able to have healthy debate and discussion, and then at the end of the day realize we all live together in the same community, and we're just all trying to do our best to make this place as good as we possibly can for everybody who's here and who will move here. So, I just wanted to foot stomp that. So with that, I will make a motion that we adopt the tailored version for our initial inclusivity statement here for the town.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion adopted.
Okay. Thank you all for your thoughts and your inputs on this. And Barbara, I hope that we are able to continue the dialogue with your organization on this. Okay, we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, that topic out of the way, is there any others to come before the meeting tonight? Jerry?
I've got one just quick bit of information I wanted to share with the three of you regarding pump track at Bartley Field. I've been in touch with Avery. He's currently traveling, but he spoke to the owner of the company he works for, Seniosity. The rec committee had decided to move forward with looking to either an individual or organization to help manage and implement this project, because we didn't feel any of the five of us were capable of executing and actually getting the whole thing started. So he had reached out to the owner. They agreed to it come spring, once we have a sense of like when on the calendar things are dry enough to even consider where we would fall in their calendar, but they would basically be willing to do it at the budgeted cost that was approved by the ARPA funds. I know that in terms of the fill that was looked at by Avery, when he looked at it with you, Bob, that was months and months ago. The volume of that may have been reduced with some of the flooding we've had this year, and I don't know if that'll change, so there might be a little reevaluation of how much free material is available to us.
There is plenty up there, Jerry.
Okay.
There's a mound up there half as big as this building.
Perfect.
Jerry, we've also got 2 bridges that we've got to excavate and put in better material, so
Okay.
both Grasshopper and Archer are going to generate some fill.
Okay, perfect, so, good, that helps to alleviate that concern. So, basically, Avery and I decided we'll reconnect probably early March to get a better sense of when on the calendar that can get started, and then that's the prerequisite to the ball field sort of facelift, because we don't want to be driving machinery through and over new base paths that we're designing, so A then B.
Nice.
Just the other 2 things, I had 2 quick questions. I had shared these with you, Bob, via email. The first was for the appointed officials, information on the website. It's on a PDF. It's out of date, and after tonight, it's out of date again. A, if we can get that updated, that would be wonderful. But B, what I proposed was it might be easier, although I don't know, based on the infrastructure of the website, for that to exist as a web page versus a PDF. It might be easier, again, I don't know the back end, but the back end of the website, it may be easier to update a rich text section as those changes occur, although hopefully they don't happen so frequently as they did this year.
Well, that's That's the issue. We never have had changes like this before.
Right.
We've always just taken it right out of the town report.
Okay.
But yes, we've already talked about that.
Okay. And then the other ask was, I noted, I don't follow many other communities. I happen to follow the town of Weathersfield on Facebook to get information about the transfer station, if they're open or closed and things like that. And I noticed that they a few times now in the past few weeks, posted the elected official positions that are open, as well as the deadlines for the different filings. I know we don't maintain a regular Facebook page, but is that something that can either be, I don't know if it's on the website, but could it at least get posted to Front Porch Forum? I think it would help. The more we broadcast it.
It's been in the Informer for 2 months.
I know, but the Informer doesn't reach everybody.
It's been in the select board minutes also.
That's fair. I think the wider net we cast, the greater the pool of candidates for qualified individuals, or at least the greater variety of individuals we have to consider.
Correct, other than that, to be an elected official, you have to be a resident. So therefore, when we put it out in the Informer, it goes to residents, it does all that.
I agree. I don't feel it's not important to have it there. I just think the more avenues of communication that we have for it, the more likely it's going to reach more individuals. So that was my only ask.
Can I turn that back to you then and say, you know, if we gave him that list that you read off today, and
I will do it on Front Porch Forum.
you'll do it on Front Porch Forum?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Calista.
I don't think other people should be posting for the town rep.
It's fair.
It should come from.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Any other to come before the meeting tonight?
Quick question.
Yep.
Hi. With the deadline coming up for elected officials prior to the next select board meeting, which select board member is, whose term is going off? And
Mine.
will you be running for re-election, Gordy?
No.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, I will. So I'm sorry, again, Gordy?
2-1. What was it, Gordy?
I'm not gonna run for re-election.
Okay, thank you. And have you had anyone express any interest in the position then?
I had a couple of phone calls, but nobody has stepped up to say anything.
Okay, great.
Nothing officially submitted, Lisa.
Okay, great, Callista, thank you.
Mark?
I have one question. So we do have one member, in addition to Eve and Jane, we do have one member that's term is up for 2024. My understanding from Bob Allen, the last meeting, is that that's appointed by the select board. So is that happening, those appointed positions happen all in March, right?
Right.
So that's going to be done at the second Monday,
March.
the March meeting. And is that going to be, that will be with a new board? That's going to be with a new board?
Correct.
Does it, okay. Okay.
If he gets in to take his oath, the new member.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or she.
Or she.
Yeah, or she, I'm sorry.
I have one other, and that's, one of the listers got bit by a dog, and he was solicited for some reimbursement. We sent the letter to the dog owner on November 14th. Have not received any information back from him. We sent a registered letter to him today. Hopefully he can acknowledge whether he's gonna accept responsibility or not, but just thought I'd bring that up.
Is that dog in my area?
No, it is not.
Gordy, is that dog on Malagash?
It is.
We'll talk later.
Okay. Anything else to come before the meeting tonight?
Is the lister okay?
Yeah, is that okay?
Lister's okay. He's healing. Yes.
He's working every day.
Yep.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All right. Thank you.